evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. I would like to call to order the Centerville Board of Education meeting for Monday, October 25th, 2021. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl.
Here.
Mrs. Dernbaugh.
Here.
Dr. Rohr.
Here.
Megan Sparks.
Here.
Mr. Schroyer.
Here. Item 3 on the agenda, the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4 on the agenda. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented, please?
So moved.
Aye.
Call the roll, Laura.
Mr. Dahl.
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh.
Yes.
Dr. Rohr.
Yes.
Megan Sparks.
Yes.
Mr. Schroyer.
Yes, item number 5 on the agenda is honors. We are so delighted to recognize our Centerville High School Merit Scholars tonight. So Dr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Schroyer. I'd like to bring up John Carroll, our coordinating principal here at Centerville High School, and he's going to make the introductions, and then the students that are here tonight. We have certificates for all of you, and again, we'd like you to line up in front of the board so we can snap a group picture when everybody is up here. Mr. Carroll?
Thank you, Dr. Henderson, and thank you to the board for allowing me to be here tonight and present our students to you and honor them. I'm going to ask our commended scholars and national merit semifinalists to come up over here for those that are in attendance, and I'll read your name here in just a moment. We'll get you nice certificates of recognition. It's really an honor to be here and present 25 of the best and brightest Centerville High School students, and there are National Merit Commended Scholars and National Merit Semifinalists. Each year, nearly 1.6 million juniors take the PSAT, and the PSAT serves as an initial screening for the National Merit Scholarship Program. Only 16,000 students are selected as National Merit Semifinalists for receiving the highest selection index scores in critical reading, mathematics, and writing skills. So these students make up less than 1% of the 1.6 million juniors who took the test this past fall. And we're certainly proud of their achievement, and I'm proud to introduce them to you. Many of them are very busy, obviously, and so they may not be here tonight, but we want to read all their names and make sure that we can recognize them all. First, I'm going to start with our commended scholars. Our commended scholars are, and you can come up and get your certificate here when I read your name. First is Sarah Ahmad. Lillian Ali. Christopher Anderson. Jack Gravenstein. Tyler Garcia. Gracia Garcia Rodriguez. Gracie also qualified for 2 other recognitions. One is the National Hispanic recognition and the National African American recognition. So proud of her. Jenna Hallbeck. Kayla Hughes. Anna Goge. Benjamin Jones. Riley Nielsen. Ryan Shaw. Adair Suresh. Larry Zhang. And Nicholas Zumber. Those are our commended scholars. Our semifinalists are Maya Vera, J.E. Bay, Elton Cow, Ingram. Lila Kenny. Samir Lohana. Sita Lakshmi Saravana. Madeline Thomas. Quinn Watercutter. Kevin Whitehead. Luke Wisniewski. So I'd like to congratulate all these students. Our National Merit Semifinalists will continue on in the competition and the National Merit Competition. I wish you all could have been there when we recognize them here with their families, because part of that ceremony is they each get to speak and they get to share about something that's been impactful in their lives in the Centerville City Schools. And you really get a sense for the rich and robust opportunities that they have here, both in the curriculum, but both in the extracurricular, because they all mentioned something special about Centerville High School. Obviously, some teachers got some glory, but they really talk about the activities and the band and the orchestra and Science Olympiad and all the clubs. And so it's really great to hear them recognize how it's kind of the entire culture and system here that we have in Centerville City Schools, and also the support of our community. So they were very gracious in thanking all of us and for the opportunities here. So I'm very happy to announce again to you our National Merit Commended Scholars and Semifinalists.
We are back to our agenda. Item number 6 on the agenda is hearing of the public. The Board of Education provides this as a convenient opportunity for public comment before any official action is taken. If you'd like to address the board, please come to the podium, state your name and address. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. If you are a student and would like to address the board, you just need to state your name. Obviously, the board will listen to all who speak, but generally not engage in discussion or dialogue at this time. Matters requiring follow-up will be directed to Dr. Henderson. Individual board members can always be contacted for a set meeting appointment, and written correspondence can be mailed to the board office.
Mr. Schreier, would you want me to keep time?
Yes, please. Please come to the microphone.
These are going to keep them nuisance. We kept all the rules on masks.
She's no closer to you than you were the students you were bumping elbows with a couple weeks ago applying, so that's a nice gesture. That's a nice gesture, Dr.
Please go ahead and
Please,
your comments. Your time is
Very
starting.
much so.
Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Melissa. My address is not public, so I'm not going to verify my address with you. I do have statements that are all stapled for each one of you on the Ohio Department of Health revised codes that were released today. Unmasked and unvaccinated K-12 students and staff members can remain in class after in-school exposure to the virus if they wear a mask for 14 days, under new state guidelines. Students exposed to the virus can participate in sports or other extracurricular activities if they wear a mask in most situations and test negative on 2 coronavirus tests, according to guidelines released Monday. No time to do much else. Ohio school leaders overwhelmed by contact tracing needs. The new mask to stay and test to play guidelines are optional for schools, and parents can opt out if they choose. So Ohio Department of Health Director Dr. Bruce Vanderhoff. In quarantine, in the face of high rates of transmission, hospitalizations like we are seeing now remain an important part of our public health response to COVID. But out-of-school quarantine has the unintended consequence of reducing in-school learning and can place added strains on our students. Here are the bullet points. They can remain at school if they wear a mask for 14 days or only 7 days if tested negative, between 5 and 7 days after exposure. Students can participate in extracurricular activities if they wear a mask, with exceptions for activities where distancing and masking are difficult and test negative on 2 tests. It's been about a month since the state began testing the new protocol in several Warren County schools. Vanderhoff said that the study along with other nationally show there are low risk of transmission in schools. The evidence on the ground that has given us confidence to offer this alternative to out-of-school quarantine to our school districts who want to take advantage of it. The Ohio Education Association is watching to see how the new guidelines play out. The focus on masking and multiple mitigation strategies as a way of preventing the spread of COVID in schools is important. Several school districts have already changed quarantine protocols. Quarantines have led to school closures across the state this year. It's prompted more districts to require phase programs for all staff and students. About 54% of these schools and students are under mask requirements. So,
Thank you, Melissa. It's been 3 minutes.
I'll take those copies and pass them out. Thanks, boys.
the link is on the back page. Along with you.
Would the next person in line like to approach the podium, please?
Hi, my name is Jill Stevens. I live at 1230 Agate Trail in Washington Township. Good news this week. The National School Board Association apologized for their letter to President Biden calling parents domestic terrorists at school board meetings. I'm here today to urge the school board to reverse the mask mandate decision and the quarantining of only unmasked well students, and to follow your oaths to the U.S. Constitution and Ohio Constitution. Allow parents to decide the risks and benefits to put their kids in masks all day using the CDC and Ohio Health Department recommendations. Recommendations are just that, and your job is to reasonably accommodate us all. Masks should not be worn out of fear just to fit in. My kids wear their masks so they're not different from everyone else. You are teaching our kids to go with the crowd, groupthink. That is not a Centerville value. I know some ladies who are working hard to conserve the Centerville value of being your own person, speaking up, and standing for what you believe. Conserving the liberal ideal in the world of government run by the people, and you are not listening to the people. During the 1918 flu pandemic, people wore masks or faced being called a dangerous slacker. We've progressed, thankfully. We now know much about the virus and masks, but unfortunately the same fear tactics and name-calling continue. I urge you to continue common sense solutions to dissipate the virus, like upgrades to the HVAC systems, air circulation, windows that can open, as stated in your mitigation strategies, in your continuity of services plan. Thank you. And also thanks to the teachers who do take the kids out for fresh air when they can. You have denied our rights and all deeply held religious exemptions and broken your oaths. That is different from other local school districts. You have no authority to oppose our unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and our deeply held religious beliefs. Beliefs can be any religion or no religion. We follow our conscience and protect life, all life. By denying us that, you have gone beyond your scope of your jobs and your oaths. And according to sections 3 and 4 of the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, this may disqualify you for office or any salary or pension. I'm just doing this out of respect for you and the 13 moves that I've done in the name of preserving our constitutions in this country and the freedoms that we so love. Thank you.
Thank you.
411 Glenham Court. I have a 5th grader, 7th grader, and freshman in Centerville schools. When my husband and I ended up in the area for work, we chose to live in Centerville because of the quality schools. Although frankly, we were in disagreement whether we'd send our kids to public or private school. My husband attended public schools until college, and I attended Catholic schools. He kept talking about the opportunities at public schools, and I kept talking about the character development at private. With hesitation on my part, we enrolled our oldest in kindergarten at PDN. At the open house, even before the first day of school, I realized I had found what I was looking for in PDN. The staff and administration there care deeply about their students, and they consistently model kindness, compassion, and integrity. As my kids have moved through different schools, I've been blown away time and time again by the amazing Centerville teachers and staff. It wasn't long before I jumped in head first, chairing events, serving on PTO boards, working as an academic volunteer, and then coordinating them. And through all of these activities, I gained a clearer picture of the good character and kindness of Centerville teachers and staff, and their deep concern for their students. When I worked on the levy committee 2 years ago, I had the pleasure of getting to know the administration on the district level, and what did I see? Again, good character and deep concern for students, families, and staff. I saw leaders who dedicate themselves to creating a positive school culture. Then, a global pandemic. It was met with a responsible response from Dr. Henderson and this school board that showed consistent compassion, integrity, and a deep concern for everyone in the community. For all of this, I am so very grateful. Our community will soon vote to fill 3 open school board positions. Masks are temporary and not the main issue here. The long-term questions are, what kind of leaders do we want as models for our children? What kind of culture do we want in Centerville City Schools going forward? Hopefully you've been paying attention the last several months, and I urge you to vote on November 2nd. For me, the answers are clear. I went from not being sure if I'd even send my kids to Centerville 9 years ago to bleeding black and gold. I will do everything I can to make sure Centerville stays a district focused on integrity, kindness, compassion, and concern for the education, development, and well-being of every student.
Thank you.
Address Board President Mr. Schroyer and members of the board. My name is Mark Fogle. I live at 1151 Quiet Brook in Washington Township. Proud alum of Dr. John Hull Elementary, Tyrese Middle School, and Centerville High School. I was honored to be student body president senior year at Centerville High School, which is a long time ago now, maybe. And I'm here as an alum, a member of this community. I've been pretty fortunate, maybe you could say, in life, and I keep thinking about how most of that is probably blind and dumb luck. And maybe the biggest luck was the fact that my parents chose to move here, raise me here, and send me to Centerville schools, unbeknownst to me, were simply excellent. And I worry that we're at an inflection point. And this culture of excellence may not be sustained into the future. And yes, I'm an alum and a member of the community, also a dad of 2 young kids at Centerville schools and a 3rd on the way. I think how much literal oxygen seems to be sucked out of the room around mask wearing. I get it. It makes sense, I guess, to a degree. I loathe it. I loathe my kids going to school wearing masks. I also understand that when you're in public service, you make hard decisions. You make hard choices based on what you think is the right thing to do. And while I loathe wearing masks, I understand it. And I agree with the decision. And so I'll take my brief moment to just address the board as a member of this community, as an alum of Centerville City Schools, as a dad that is sending my kids to try to experience the kind of opportunity that I had going through these excellent schools, and say thank you for your efforts, thank you for your leadership, your job, often thankless, and this last year, let's be honest, much worse than that, is based on integrity, a sense of service, and doing what's right for the community. And I feel optimistic that this board will continue to do so with the members on it that I see. Thank you very much for what you do.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sue Steele and I live at 7626 Cloverbrook Park Drive. And my kids already graduated from Centerville. And I have grandchildren who attend different school systems, public school systems. But I'm speaking on behalf of all the kids that go to school because I see kids walking to the bus, stop outside with masks on, and it just, my heart breaks because my grandson doesn't even know what his teacher's face looks like. She doesn't recognize him outside of school. It's a sad situation. But I'd just like everybody to step back because I see the health department re-looked at their guidelines. Well, if we could just look at the data. There's a lot of data out on the COVID Ohio sites, a lot of data. And you can find the number of children attending schools that require masks and don't require masks. And then you can find out how many COVID cases there are for those school districts. So I analyzed that. Is there a difference? No, there isn't. There are 475,000 children attending schools where masks are optional. They have a COVID case rate per student of 3.29. There are 840,000 kids going to schools that require masks. Their COVID rate, 3.36. There is no statistical difference between masks being required and not required and COVID cases. However, what are we doing for the kids that have to wear masks all the time? Like my grandson with 2 styes right now and gum disease. Goes to the dentist and finds out there's a thing called mask mouth. Are you aware of that?
Yes, ma'am.
You get gum disease, and gum disease is a permanent condition because the kids are breathing through their mouths and their saliva rate generation is low. Teenagers losing permanent molars and teeth because of this mask mouth. I am just asking you to relook at it, to look at the data. I saw the bullying going on by this board of the parents who wanted of the school board members who wanted parents to choose. I did not appreciate that bullying at all. I think people can disagree, and we should be able to step back and look at, is this policy really preventing COVID cases within our school? That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Debbie Barrett. I live at 361 Beck Drive in Centerville. I have 2 daughters in the system. My older daughter, Anna, is a sophomore, and my younger daughter is a 7th grader at night. I am here tonight to thank you, the members of the board, and you, Dr. Henderson, for the hard work and excellent leadership that you have done throughout this pandemic, particularly the measures that you have taken and continue to take to protect all children and school personnel. You have the best interest of all who are involved in the school and do not kowtow to a vocal minority. For that, I'm most thankful. I am greatly concerned about the recent notion of some members in our community that a mask infringes upon one's religious freedoms. In all the world's major religions, a key tenet is to love one another and to take care of them. I grew up in a Christian tradition, yet I recognize that not everyone practices Christianity. But it has become very clear in this pandemic that there are 2 types of people. Those who care only about their own personal comfort, and those who care about others and are empathetic.
The former has a much different view of love thy neighbor as thyself than I do. I question how someone can claim that a piece of fabric covering their mouth inhibits their religious freedoms. Honestly, what religious tradition would care about us protecting others with one of the only ones we currently have to do so? I'm confident that Jesus would wear a mask. I'm also confident that he would not lie and encourage others to do so publicly about a religious exemption for protecting others.
Just a moment, please. I would like to ask all members of the audience to please be respectful to everyone. Everyone can talk if they want up to 30 minutes. I just ask that everyone please be respectful. Thank you. Go on, please, sir.
My name is Kyle Bosher. I'm a junior at this high school. I'm a representative of our student council here. I'm here to talk today about the voice of the students. Personally, in our student council meetings, we try to talk about how we're trying to get our students to come to these meetings more, to express their opinions, and I feel that's very important to our school. Getting our students to participate in these meetings gets them more educated on these meetings. So if you're a parent of these kids and you want them to voice their opinions, you want their opinions to matter, I suggest you tell them to share their opinions here like I'm doing right now. Sorry, my nerves are getting the best of me right now. Yeah. Now, I want to thank you. Oh, yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
My name's Scott Taylor, and I'm president of Miamisburg. I'll tell you, I'm a fan booster of Miamisburg, and usually Miamisburg goes to competition. They take half the trophies, unless Centerville shows up. Then they take a bunch of them. I'm coming today and talking about some of the challenges we have. I had a chance to talk to Mr. Ralph Fogle, who is a local industrial hygienist, and he has more than 30 years in that field. And I called him up on the phone because I had been listening to a guy named Dr. Stephen Penny and studying. He talks about how masks are not effective. I thought, why don't I dial up an industrial hygienist and get a different opinion? Wow, he spoke to me for 45 minutes. I learned so much about it. He said, you know, those surgical masks, they're designed to keep spittle from falling on patients. Never, ever designed to protect from the virus. And if they work at all, it's just by sheer chance. I also learned that the COVID micron is 40,000 times smaller than the cross-section of human hair. He talked about, Stephen Petty talked about when he went on a plane, he wore respirators. They knew that a mask would give no protection. They made him take it off because it wasn't a mask. You put an N95 mask, which is about 70% effective, but you have to have a particular training in how to use it because it causes all kinds of problems. They're never designed to be wearing all day long. And he survived. Now let's talk about, so pretty much, I'm convinced that masks are not effective. When you talk about the effect on children, you know, there's this little drawing here. It creates fear of each other. It creates fear of the world. Fear of illness, virus, and even the air they breathe. They're being taught to fear everything. Prolonged fear of terror. Terror becomes trauma. The psychological damage being done is irreversible. I got some statistics. I've been collecting statistics for some time. You know, about 14 people under the age of 20 have died of COVID in the entire state. More children in those age groups die of roads and highways. Daddy, 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 don't put me in the car. I don't want to die. Imagine how children would act driving in cars if they were taught the same things they would teach people about COVID. You know, high vaccine rate and high death rate in Israel. How many jabs are you going to give them? Oh, by the way, those jabs, those companies are not liable at all for knowing how many people they kill. If you go on the VIRS report, about 7,000 people had died of that. That's more than they were keeping track record of all vaccines. Tens of thousands of people injured. Pilots are banned from flying after they get this shot to make sure they don't get blood clots. Because of a pilot getting blood clots when they're flying a plane, a 737, means a lot of death. You know that the evidence doesn't stack
Mr. Taylor, thank you. It's been 3 minutes.
Thank you. But I want to give this information to those in the board. I pray you'll make the right decision.
I'll take it. Thank you.
sorry, go on.
Okay.
I usually start when you say your name, sorry.
Amy Johns, 336 Marylanders Drive. I wasn't going to talk, but then I heard people saying rude things about people who don't want to wear masks and stuff like that, so I decided I think better talk. People who want masks optional, we aren't trying to force you people who want to wear masks to not wear masks. We aren't trying to control you, but your side wants to control us. You don't want us to dare have the option to not wear masks, or our children. You want to force us to do things. We don't care if you guys wear masks. You can go for it. But it seems really unfair that people who want them try to force it on the others. And I did also want to mention that news that came out regarding the quarantines changing. So if the children can quarantine in school, it kind of takes away one of the points you guys were making before about wearing the mask so the kids wouldn't have to quarantine. But now, if they can quarantine in school, that kind of takes away that problem, you know? And anyway, then also on the Public Health of Dayton and Montgomery County website, they have the K through 12 cases, and I didn't bring a copy, but I emailed it to people. The cases are majorly going down. I mean, they're just, so I did send that to you. I didn't bring copies because I didn't think I was going to talk. Also, there was news from WHIO about the daily COVID-19 count case trends below 21 average, so it's going down there. And Premier Health has also relaxed their pandemic restrictions on the visitors. So now they're letting 2 people in. I know that doesn't sound like much, but if you're, the hospitals are the locations that have the most stringent protocol. And if they're reducing it, that tells you something, that they're feeling more comfortable. And then, I kind of analyzed the information from October 18th to 22nd, and there was only 36 people in quarantine out of 8,000 kids. There was only 11 cases of COVID in this whole 8,000 population of children. So that's basically a 0.14% cases, so that's tiny. And then the quarantines were 0.45%, so that's less than half a percent of the students are quarantined. So why are we forcing masks on children? It should be time to look at the stats and go back to optional. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Howdy, I'm Patrick Cumming-All. I'm another junior at this high school. I've served on the student council for both my freshman and sophomore years. I'm a proud member of the thespian troupe we have here, 2204. And I just want to, I know I don't want to give you statistics, I don't want to get into that kind of stuff. But I kind of find an issue with the fact that this is such a divide, because I've heard the term used so many times today, the sides, and I find that as a problem. Because I think people are talking about psychological trauma and stuff. I dare you find a high school that doesn't have psychological trauma. I go to high school every day. Everybody I know goes through this kind of stuff. But by making this a sides issue, we don't help anyone. I firmly believe that by quantifying this as a sides thing, we stop any work together as a solution. We're still a community. We're still living together at the end of the day. I don't care what ends up happening as long as it keeps people safe and keeps people happy, because we are a community. And I mean, I just want to share an anecdote. I don't want to take sides at all, because there should be sides. But we had a performance here at CHS last year of Dracula, which was a fantastic show. I enjoyed being part of it. But one of my fellow castmates, a girl playing one of the characters, came down with COVID. 2 weeks before the performance, and she couldn't perform. And I think that was the first time I really had COVID affect my life before I had COVID, because I did have COVID. And I think that this is an impact. It does have some, I don't think we should minimize the problem, because I firmly believe, I've talked to people at the high school, I talk to people at high school every day, I think most people think that there is an issue with, that COVID still is an issue. I firmly believe that we need to be protected, and I want to thank you guys for your work in keeping us safe and healthy, and working to let those things, some of you mentioned extracurriculars earlier, being the backbone in the life, and a curriculum of excellence, and I want to thank you guys for inspiring that. So,
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the board tonight before we move on? Thank you to all who spoke tonight. We appreciate it. We're going to go to item number 7 on the agenda, which are the board and administrative reports. I will turn that over to Dr. Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Schroyer. I think next on the agenda would be our report from our student board reps. So if you'd like to come up and share your information, we appreciate that. Thank you.
So last month, I believe we talked about.
Introduce yourself.
Right, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm Amina Wase. I'm a senior here. But last month we were talking about an issue about accessibility to water at the high school since the water fountains have been turned off because of COVID. And now the water bottle filling stations are only open, and water bottles you're able to buy water bottles at the cafeteria until like lunch. Then after the cafeteria closes after lunch, then there's basically no accessibility to water if you did not bring your own water bottle. So we have heard that concern from the students through Candy and comments. So we wanted to address it, and so what we did is our first step was to just contact all the elementary schools and the middle schools with their secretaries or the principals, and ask them if this was an issue at their schools as well, to kind of assess if it was a district-wide issue or just a Centerville High School issue. And from the responses we've heard, we haven't heard back from everyone. It's mostly a high school issue, so there was no real issue there because they would have like disposable cups or extra like reusable water bottles that, as far as I know, we don't really have access to here at the high school, or it's not really publicized. So that was just like the first step in this like project, and we just wanted to report on it.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ruth Shiagel. I'm a junior. As often mentioned, we do Candy and Comments, which is a way for us to receive feedback from our students. Right now, we currently only do it at the high school level. We do go to the elementary and middle schools about once a year. We do realize that this is an issue, so one thing that we started to do, or have an idea, is create a Dropbox. So at our middle school and our elementary places, you might think about having a Dropbox where students can like write their concerns, and they can place it in this Dropbox where your board reps will then go and pick them up, and then we will also read those comments. And we think this is really important because right now Candy Comments is hosted during our lunch period, and in receiving a comment, we give candy. So a lot of kids just do it to get a piece of candy. So by having a Dropbox available to students at all times, those who are really passionate, who really do have a concern, are more than welcome to always write something where we will read all the comments from other levels.
Good evening, my name is Jacob Beaver. I'm also a junior. I've been working on our nutrition project at the high school, which has been working on cutting down food waste at the high school and giving any extra food back to the students who are low income or who need. I communicated with Centerville's nutrition department, and I was actually able to find out that we have a pretty low amount of food waste at the high school. We waste about 30 servings of food at the high school per day, which is still a lot of food, but is much less than what we had thought originally. So I'm now trying to branch out and see other schools in the county, in Montgomery County, that are of similar size, to see if they have this issue too, to see if we can maybe resolve it with them. But fortunately for Centerville, we don't have a lot of food waste at the high school, middle school, or elementary levels. So we're just trying to see if we can maybe contact any other school districts and see if that's a problem there.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gabriel Prizo. I'm a senior here at Centerville High School. One of the biggest concerns that's been raised in the Candy and Comments is the issue of class rank. I'm reaching out currently to other schools to see how they're doing it, so maybe we can take a little bit of inspiration, just to make sure that our students get the recognition that they deserve.
Hi, good evening. I'm Zoe Lamb. I'm Zoe Lamb. I'm a senior at the high school. Our final report is that we have an upcoming meeting with our roundtable of other board of education and student representatives in different districts. You probably heard about it in the past. Last year we worked with them and we ended up meeting with state officials. We talked about waiving state testing for our district. So anyways, our next meeting is on Saturday, and between this meeting and the one that we had previously, members have been trying to look at other issues that we could possibly tackle. And so the objective of our next meeting is to finally land on that issue. So that's all we have for tonight. Thank you.
Tom, is there any, if water is an issue after lunch, is there any way we could maybe set things up where like at each office at high school, there's water there if someone wants to purchase it or something, just so we have it, so it doesn't drag on too long? Sure. So we'll try to get that rectified pretty quickly.
Thank you.
So Mr. Carroll's not here, I didn't see him, so. Oh, there he is.
Yeah,
He'll
comes
take
in every
care of it.
office, anybody asks, they get a cup.
Okay.
Next, I think, is Mrs. Sparks with the legislative report.
Sorry about that. The Senate unanimously passed House Concurrent Resolution HCR 35. The bill would invalidate the proposed amendment to Rule 3301-35-04 of the Ohio Administrative Code. The Joint Committee on Agency Rule Review recommended to invalidate the rule. Last week, the House adopted H.R. 35. The rule is now invalidated. This amendment would have eliminated foreign languages, business education, and home economics from being a part of the Ohio curriculum. This is the first time in 25 years that the General Assembly stopped a rule from going into effect. Both Representative Andrea White and Representative Tom Young supported HCR 35. The Senate unanimously passed Senate Bill 229. A few points from that bill that I would like to point out are that the bill would require each school to complete and submit within 90 days a remediation plan to address the learning loss students experienced during COVID-19 pandemic. Permit a school district to adopt a resolution that provides remote learning to a student whose parents request remote learning. Add a school district superintendent to the state report card review committee, and also require ODE to calculate an adjusted four-year graduation rate for those students who are continuously enrolled in the same district or building in grades 9 through 12. And that's the end of the report for this month. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last report tonight is by our treasurer, Ms. Laura Solomon, and she's going to use a PowerPoint as well. So, Laura.
Thank you, everyone, and good evening. My report tonight is a little bit of a continuation of what we talked about through the month of October, which was our financial master plan for the year. When we talk about the finances for the year, the last thing that I want is to not talk about it again until we revise in May for the 5-year forecast. And so every month in your packet, you approve what is called the General Fund Rolling Report. And so I want to talk tonight a little bit about what that is and why it's important and how it informs you and keeps you on track with what's happening in our general fund. So what is that? It's taking our current estimates from that financial plan for the current fiscal year, and it breaks that down on a monthly basis so that we can take a look at what we think it's going to be each month and then what those actual expenses or revenue levels are. And so then the question, why is it useful? Exactly kind of how I started out tonight. As the year progresses, we want to look at our finances on a monthly basis and take a look, are we on track? And if we're not on track, why aren't we on track? And so I'll always provide 2 reasons why we might not be on track. So this slide here, if you have a copy of this at your tables, because it is a little bit hard to see, this was kind of where I ended last month, where we talked about the 5-year financial master plan. And so this will get converted over to the 5-year forecast format, and you'll see that next month. But it'll be the same numbers, just ordered a little bit differently than ODE requires. But I've highlighted a few sections here in the green area. They're highlighted in green with an arrow there. That's the current year, fiscal year 22, revenues and expenses. So if you can go to the next slide. And so we break that down now on a monthly basis. So this slide is a look at just the revenue section. And so you can see across the top, we have a column for each month, starting with July, because that's the start of our fiscal year. That's subtotaled by each quarter. And then there's a section for property taxes, for state funding, for our rollbacks and reimbursements, and then for any other local revenue that we receive. And you can see there all the way to the right in the top right-hand corner, that number matches from the previous slide, the $108 million that we anticipate that we're going to receive in revenue for the year. So I estimate at the beginning of the fiscal year, I estimate when I think we're going to receive each payment in terms of revenue, and that totals up to the total revenue we think we're going to receive for the year. So to kind of just zoom in a little bit here on just one piece that I'll talk about tonight, that is our property tax collections. And we haven't gotten to November yet, but I highlight that just for a reason to show you here that we'll talk about in a second. The first line there is called plan, and so that's what I think we're going to receive and when I think we're going to receive it based on historical data. So the bottom two lines there, you can see the 2021 and the 2020. Those are the prior 2 years of history, so that you have a comparison from one month to the next. So you can see it's all over the place. This year, we anticipate that we'll be back to the 2020 collection patterns in terms of property tax revenue. 2021 was a little bit of an anomaly, and that's because of COVID. When COVID hit, they extended the tax deadline, and that changed our payment cycles. And we did talk about that. If you go back in the archives, we talked about that last year quite a bit. And so you can see that in July and August, I estimated $20 million collection in July and a $10 million collection in August. All of our advances came in July this year. And so that's just a timing issue. There's really no way for us to know when the county auditor is going to send those payments to us for sure. And so like I said, this is just our best guess. But if you look for the quarter, we had estimated $40 million collection for this first collection point, and we collected $40,213,000. So we're right on, that to me is right on target or right on schedule with what our revenue should be for the year. So next we'll move to the expenses. And that expense section of your report lists wages, benefits, and then every other category of our expenses, which we're just calling educational support. But again, in that top right-hand corner, you'll see that green highlighted cell for $109 million, and that is what we're anticipating that our expenses will be for the year. And again, that matches up with what we talked about last month in terms of our total expenses for the year. And so to pull up just a smaller section of that, I highlighted just the green section. If you look at the historical, same thing here, we've got 2 years of historical information at the bottom there, and you can see that in 2020, we had a high August payment. That's because we had a 3-pay month in August. In 2021, that actually hit in October. That's the same for this year, and so when you look at those plan numbers across the top, you can see that the October plan is pretty much a 50% higher than what it is the prior 2 months, and that's because of that 3-pay month being in there. And so but that kind of helps us from a cash flow perspective. We know when those types of things are going to hit, and this happens throughout this whole plan, but I wanted to just highlight those couple of examples and areas for you. So I rely heavily on this report every month. I look at it in detail, and if there's anything from a time, it's usually just timing. Many times it's just a matter of when are we receiving the money, or maybe we spent it sooner or later than what we anticipated. But I rely heavily on this report, and we talk about it as an administrative group as well, what those differences are. But you know, through the month of September, we're right on track with our plan. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. All righty, we are going to go to the action items on the agenda. We'll move through these pretty fast, but we have considered and discussed all of them. So on the agenda, we're at item number 8, which are the treasurer's recommendations. 8A, consider approving the September 2021 financial statements to include the monthly general fund rolling report that Ms. Salver just talked about, the monthly cash reconciliation report, the monthly fund activity report, and then and now purchase orders approved by administration, certified by the treasurer, and supported by board resolution totaling $31,076.11. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any questions or comments on 8A? Laura, would you please explain what then and now means, please?
Sure. This is for items that the invoice date of any purchase is dated before the purchase order date. Normally, the purchase order has to be in place first. That's the proper purchasing procedure, but sometimes for various reasons, we have to, if we have an emergency purchase, for example, if something breaks, sometimes Mr. Westney has to actually, get services in place before we can have the paperwork done, basically. So I have the authority to approve anything up to $3,000. Anything over that, the board is brought to the board for approval. This is a compliance piece for audit purposes to make sure that we're compliant with our audit.
Thank you. And now you can call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh? Yes. Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mr. Schreier?
Yes. Item 8B, consider approving the minutes of the following Board of Education meetings. The September 27th, 2021 regular meeting, the October 18th, 2021 special meeting work session. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh? Yes. Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mr. Schreier?
Yes. Next on the agenda is item number 9, which are the superintendent's recommendations. I believe we can take all these together tonight. The superintendent recommends accepting resignations as listed on Schedule A. The superintendent recommends the employment, change of employment status, or change of contract status for the certificated personnel listed on Schedule B for the salaries, programs, and on the effective dates given. The superintendent recommends the employment or change of employment status for the support staff personnel listed on Schedule C for the salaries, programs, and on the effective dates given. The superintendent recommends the employment of the personnel listed on Schedules D and D1 for supplemental contracts or extra duty assignments. And finally, the superintendent recommends the granting of leaves of absence for the personnel listed on Schedule E for the reasons and on the dates given.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on any of that? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh? Yes. Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mr. Schreier?
Yes. Item number 10, consider approving the 2022 Board of Education meeting dates that we discussed last week, and changes were made after our discussion.
So moved. Second.
Any comment or questions on that? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh? Yes. Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mr. Schreier?
Yes. Item number 11, any final comments for the good of the order from anyone?
I just wanted to publicly give my condolences to the Gregg family. Most of us know that Coach Bob Gregg passed away yesterday, and he was just an amazing person. He did so much for our district, and I had him 2 years, and I will forever be grateful. He was a wonderful teacher, so I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Item number 12, can I have a motion for adjournment, please?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh? Yes. Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mr. Schreier?
Yes. Thank you for coming. We are adjourned tonight.